She had to organize.
Sure is.
Let's call to order this Wednesday, March 16th, 2022 Newton Falls Regular Council meeting to order. If you could turn off any devices that you have or set to vibrate and stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Short prayer. Precious Lord, dear God, we thank you for your presence here tonight. We thank you for everybody making it here safely. We thank you for this country, this community. We pray, again, a special prayer for the people of Ukraine. We pray for your direction, your wisdom tonight. We pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call for the roll. Mr. Sirotko?
Here.
Mr. Boryak?
Here.
Ms. Spletzer?
Present.
Mr. Granchi?
Here.
And is Ms. Stempert?
Here.
All right. Okay, where are we at here? Special presentations, none. Public comments, limited to agenda items only in the first section. Give your name, your address, 3 minutes unless you previously requested additional time, and we have one additional time person, that's Ms. Julie Lemon.
Julie Lemon, 609 Ridge Road. Good evening. I want to address the following items on tonight's agenda. First, I'd like to address Ordinance 2022-10 and number 1 under new business combined. I agree that council should appoint an acting city clerk so the business of the city can run effectively and council's documents can be done. But I also agree with it because council needs to be in compliance with the charter. It's a must. It's not a maybe, it's a must. And this is found in Article 3, Section 14. So another concern I have is number 1 on new business. Article 3, Section 10 states, I'm not going to read the whole section, I'm just going to read part of it, that the council shall keep a journal of its proceedings, which shall be a public record open to public inspection. So knowing that the law is up for interpretation, I looked up the actual definition as applicable to the phrase journal of proceedings. It means written record, not audio or video. If council was to go back on YouTube and review the videos, there have already been several times that the audio would go in and out, sometimes for more than a few minutes. I know this type of situation happens and it's out of anyone's control, but it's happened just the same. The charter declares journal of proceedings and that the city clerk is the keeper of the journal and records. I am humbly asking the members of council to vote no on number 1 on new business. I would also like to speak on the resolutions for tonight. First, I would like to address the resolution that honors Newton Falls resident Rick Curlin. To be honest, at first I thought that having this resolution on the agenda was a bad idea. That there would be naysayers and those who think he was very undeserving of such recognition. Then I thought better of it. I've gotten to know Mr. Curlin over the past year, and I've had the pleasure of serving with him on the Charter Review Commission. Most of this community knows him as Santa Rick. Then I thought about how our community benefits from his efforts. And I was remembering Santa Rick and Mike Rowe at a Christmas craft show at the community center. I remember how they strategically worked the room as a team. Mike Rowe is gone now, but our community still has our very own Santa. Rick Curlin celebrates Christmas all year long. It never ends for him. His work is never done if there's a child or a family in need. He gives his time and effort so selflessly all throughout the years, to the point where sometimes he doesn't even take care of himself. Many children and families have had a very Merry Christmas because of his hard work. That alone is worth noting. And I want to say thank you, Santa, for all that you do for our community. I also want to address the resolution for the support for Ukraine. I was watching the news, and I'm just going to wing it on this one, but I was watching the news on Friday. And I got the same feeling that I had back on 9/11 of 2001. All those people. So I remember saying to my dad, as we watched the towers come down and people still inside those buildings, not knowing the number, but someone came on our land and did that to us. Now, Russia's gone into Ukraine and is annihilating them. And on Friday, I saw on the news a mass grave. People being rolled, not properly buried. And I didn't just cry, I ugly cried, and my husband's like, what in the world is wrong? I said, David, all of those people. Then I thought about our community. If you look at your neighbors, could you imagine one of us being in a mass grave? Family members not getting to say goodbye. They didn't ask for this. And I wholeheartedly support the resolution on the Ukraine. Thank you.
Two brief comments. John Richards, 212 Albert Street. And these are not heavy criticisms, but there's things I noticed. On the agenda, I looked at it when it was on the council's webpage, and there was an item marked as an emergency, but it's not marked as an emergency on here. And so it either is or it isn't. And the other thing is, these ordinances all need to have names on the agenda as to who sponsored them. And there are no names. And the one thing I just want to read this very quickly. This is a definition of emergency. And there's a difference when you look things up sometimes in a dictionary and what it means under the law. So I looked for a law definition. So this is from the Cornell Law School, updated July of 2021. And it basically says, an emergency is an urgent, sudden, and serious event or unforeseen change in circumstances that necessitates immediate action to remedy harm or avert imminent danger to life, health, or property. So I'm hoping if we do have an emergency ordinance that we're given specific details why it's urgent, sudden, and necessary. Thank you.
Rick Curlin, 611-1099 Wood Glen, South Canal. I want to congratulate every member of City Council and the administration of Newton Falls. What you are doing this evening by making it a legal resolution to support the people of the Ukraine and the things that they are going through, children being killed, women being killed, they're being bombed in their basements. It is important that we all remember what freedoms we have and don't have. Our veterans, which many up there realize that, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The United States and Newton Falls right now, Newton Falls is leading the way to show that they support. We have a police officer from the Ukraine, Igor Oliver. Don't think for 1 minute he doesn't appreciate, or his family doesn't appreciate, what this community is doing. You're taking a stance that you're against war, you're against the despot that's doing it, and I want to thank you all and congratulate you all by doing these things, showing their flag and the things that you're doing. It is important that we lead the way. Thank you all very much for that.
Adam Zimmerman, 515 LeMay Avenue. First of all, I just want to say that I haven't seen what's on the city website, so I didn't see an ordinance listed as an emergency. I just went by the agenda that Mr. Granchi posted on Facebook, so that's where I have my information from. I didn't know there was anything on here as an emergency, but let's talk about Ordinance 2022-10 and an ordinance appointing an acting city clerk. Well, my questions are, how is this up for public hearings and under old business when we have never heard this ordinance read prior to this meeting? The first we heard of this ordinance is when Ms. Bledsoe made a motion to amend it upon coming out of executive session during the special meeting last Thursday. How can something be amended that was never introduced in the first place? A motion was then made to accept the ordinance as amended. It was not listed on the agenda. It was never read by the mayor or the acting clerk prior to or upon exiting out of executive session. We also read in the paper last Friday that council appointed Ms. Smiles as acting clerk. Her name was not mentioned once during the meeting. Who nominated her? Where was the vote to appoint her to the position? It never happened. There was never a vote on any motion or ordinance proposing her to be acting clerk. So with none of this happening prior to the meeting tonight, how did we get in this situation? Public hearings and the second reading of an ordinance that has yet to be introduced to the public. Who wrote the agenda for tonight's meeting? Was it our interim city manager that has no idea in what she's doing?
Point of order. That's enough of that.
Stick with facts.
That has no idea what she's doing. Quit making accusations. That's your first warning, sir. The next time you're going to have to be sit down.
Excuse me, but the mayor rolls on the point of
Well,
order.
we're
You
not-
just say
we're not-
point of order and the mayor
Stop.
rolls on it.
We're not going to go down into the rat hole that you want to take us into. Keep it correct, keep it accurate, and we'll move
But I'm
forward.
allowed to have an opinion. I'm down here on the floor. I'm
You're not allowed to
an
make
opinion.
accusations,
You're
sir.
not going
It is
to
not an
slander,
accusation,
you're
it
not
is an
going to
opinion.
abuse somebody that's sitting up there that's doing their job. You're not going to do it.
When I was up there, you let everyone abuse me
We don't worry about it.
for a year.
Point
You
of
didn't
order.
interrupt.
We're not worried about you. Make it about you, something about.
Excuse me,
No, excuse me. Quit doing what you're doing, sir. I gave.
but you're not allowed to address people out here
All right.
in the crowd, Mr. Barry.
Well, so what? You address people on that.
Thank you. Was it approved by our lame duck lard department and still doesn't have a clue?
Oh,
John,
I'm betting it's a combination of the three. More competent individuals would have advised our council on the proper way to handle things. Under the previous clerk, this never would have happened. It would have been addressed and cleared up before the last meeting was finished. If council needs to, I'm urging everyone to suspend the rules tonight and watch last week's special meeting if anyone hasn't seen it on what was
your
done.
time's up.
time's up.
Just one last thing. Why
Your
are
time's
ordinance
up.
2022-8
Time's
and 9
Time's up.
back on the agenda?
Time's
Time's
up.
up.
They were already voted
Come on,
on
sit down.
and had public hearings
Come on,
last
sit
time.
down.
See ya.
Anybody else?
I better hide my. Okay, I'm all right now.
You know, the first thing I want to address council about is this is the United States of America, where we have free speech.
Mr.
It's
Hanson,
not
there-
Russia.
there's,
It's not-
there's,
whoa, whoa,
there's
whoa, whoa, whoa.
consequence to free speech.
This is a
You
council
keep it.
meeting.
You can't
Point of
slander
order,
those
Mayor.
rules.
Explain
Mr.
that.
Moriak, stop.
Go ahead.
You cannot attack people's personal nature. You can't come here.
Stifle my right to speak, and we'll find out if you're a Republican
Oh,
or a
well,
Democrat.
threaten us now.
What does that have to do with
Go ahead,
anything?
threaten us.
You're threatening me.
Stop.
No, you're
Both of
threatening
you,
me.
stop! I'm not gonna put up with this stuff all night. Continue.
All right. Let's talk about the firings. Now, going back, this is going to be Hanson's history lesson.
No,
When
is
Deborah
it on
went-
the agenda, Mr.
Excuse me,
Hanson?
Mr. Hanson,
No.
could you cite which section of the agenda you're addressing, please?
We're talking about the dismissal of employees. Now, we go back,
That's not on the
The
agenda.
Not on the
We're not
agenda.
dismissing anybody from no employees.
is this public comment section or not?
According to the agenda. That's what the first
Okay, so
section.
we're going to have the public comment section after we get done here?
Yes.
Okay.
The second part of public comments is open. No problem. Okay, anybody else? All right, if there's nobody else, then I'm going to address this. We've went down in this hole for a year and a half, and it's done. It's done. It's time to start to build the community up. I don't think anybody is interested in garbage, throwing mud, slinging mud, and it's gonna stop. Alright. Approval of previous minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes for the, the March 2nd meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
We don't have minutes.
We
Just
don't
kidding.
need any.
What?
Reports. You forgot the report.
Okay. Okay, we'll go to reports. Mr. Sirotko.
I have nothing this week.
Mr. Boryek.
The only thing I'd like to say to the public tonight is that I did have a chance to tour the Promida building today. They're starting to work on it. They're gonna they're cleaning up all around the building. And I'll tell you what, I was never more shocked to see how big that building really is inside. That is one tremendous building. They're gonna get it up and running. They've already got a few things in there that they're gonna ship out. And we're gonna do what we can for them. It's gonna be they're gonna put a fence up, a big fence. What's the matter?
I need you to bring your microphone a little bit closer. So
They're gonna put a nice fence up, and we're willing to work with us. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spletzer, do you have anything for Ward 3?
The only thing I have to report is the few phone calls and emails and issues that I addressed with the city manager and the chief of police, and that's all.
All right, thank you. Mr. Granchi, anything for Ward 4?
Yeah, mostly just phone calls, emails like usual. But I just wanted to give a quick shout to Ms. Pretty and the street department for being able to address the issues that were brought up by one of my constituents in a very timely manner. They were very pleased with that, so thank you for that.
All right, thank you. Ms. Stempert, did you have anything at large?
Yes, I attended the fire board meeting last night. We interviewed 4 really good candidates, and pending all requirements are met, we have made an offer to Mr. James Williamson of the Brookfield Fire Department, potentially to start April 1st, as long as all his requirements are met. As far as calls, they're at 402 calls for the year, which is up from last year. They've provided support to 5 different structure fires so far, and if everyone could keep the family, our local family that lost a loved one in a fire this past weekend, and for those first responders that went to that fire to put it out. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
The next meeting is April 19th at 6 o'clock for the fire board.
Thank you, Ms. Stempert. Mr. Housley, do you have anything for the Finance Department?
Sure. Couple of things, actually. I put a statement of cash position in front of you. We have closed January, and January is also reconciled. This statement of cash position is February. It is in the process of being reconciled. I just want to highlight a couple of things of greatest priority on this. First being the general fund balance, unexpended balance of $8,700. It's far too low. And to add to that, the general fund currently is projecting a deficit balance by the end of this year. So I'm going to talk to Pam about possibly trying to schedule some work sessions, and obviously her and I are going to have to come up with some suggestions, but we're going to have to work on this as soon as possible. And then also I'd like to add that the street construction maintenance and repair fund 201's a negative 6344 already. I do have it budgeted to make a transfer to that fund, I believe, from the general fund, so that should clear itself up here pretty shortly. And the last item that I'd like to bring up is that my community did pass legislation permitting me to work a 10-hour day out there, modifying my work schedule, so it gives me a free day. And I can be available to this community on, well, any one day of the week, which I'm thinking of Wednesday. I don't know if that's legally viable. They also would like you to contribute 1/5 towards my health care benefits for the business hours portion of my work week anyway. And I know I gave that to Pam, and I know she's working on some of the legalities of it. That's all I have to report on.
Okay, anybody have any comments, questions, or concerns for Mr. Housley? Okay, if not, then we'll move on to,
Actually, I do have one question.
okay. You have the floor.
I'm looking at the year-to-date receipts and the income tax, and I was just wondering if you could, how does that compare to where we were at last year at this time? Would you know?
I did not compare that to last January, no. So, it wouldn't be that difficult to do. I mean, I could just, I'll let you know tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, if not, Mr. Schrader, do you have anything for the law department?
No, I'm here to answer any questions you might have or to participate in an executive session if you want to have one. Thank you.
Anybody have anything for the law director? Okay, if not, I'll move on. The only things that I have to report is I was able to participate in the opening of the Iron Forge gym the other day. It was part of an award presentation of our very own officer, John Barhoover. He received awards, martial arts awards, for the amount of boards that he was able to break, speed, and different things like that. And where he's at, he's a teacher located at the Mimi's Dance Building, and there's also a martial arts studio there. Had numerous meetings with fellow citizens and attended a meeting with Governor DeWine over many local topics, and that's all I have. Ms. Pretty, do you have anything to report?
Everybody was given the city manager's report. I did attend the civil service. We had 9 people take the test. Originally, there were 12 that had signed up, so 9 did end up taking it. We do only have 1 set of results back so far, and that is for the police department. Then there were just a number of miscellaneous items that I took care of throughout the past 2 weeks, so, and they're all listed there.
Okay. Does anybody have anything for the city manager? Okay. If not, there's no changes to tonight's agenda. Approval of previous minutes. Somebody want to make a motion to approve the March 2nd, 2022
I'll
minutes?
make that.
Okay.
We didn't get copies of that.
No, they're not listed there.
Okay. All right, then strike that then. All right, next.
And I do think we have some changes to tonight's agenda.
Yeah, right here, I want to see if somebody can make a motion to remove from the agenda ordinances 2022-08 and 2022-09. They were passed at the last meeting, and withdraw from consideration 2022-10. Would somebody like to make a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and call for the roll on that. Mr. Sirotko?
Yes.
Mr. Boriak?
Yes.
Ms. Spletzer?
Yes.
Mr. Granchi?
Yes.
Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, let me mark this down here. Yes. Okay, who made the motion on that?
I did.
Okay, Granchi did?
And I seconded it.
Okay, Mr. Boriak seconded. Okay. All right, we'll move on then to new business.
Unfinished.
No unfinished business.
Unfinished.
There is nothing under unfinished business.
There's 22-10.
We removed it.
I thought
Yeah.
we only removed 8 and 9.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I mean, is 8 still
Yes,
on the sir?
That's my fault.
no, listen, we removed 2022-08 and 09 because they were passed at the last meeting, and we withdrew from consideration 10. Okay. So we're on new business. And first item is a motion to adopt the video and or audio recording of council meetings as the official form of meeting minutes and a simple outline of motions, seconds, and votes of council until a permanent council city clerk is adopted.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, let me mark this down real quick here.
Take your time.
Motion number 1. Okay, Mr. Bariak wants to make the motion. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Granchi is second. Any discussion?
Yes, just real fast, Mr.
Okay,
Reed.
you have the floor, Mr. Granchi.
Is that an audio recording device that you're using over there too as a stopgap, just in case everything else doesn't work? So we have a fallback then as well? Okay.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Granchi?
No, that's all for
Okay,
me.
Mr. Bariak, did you want the floor?
Just, all I'd like to say is that this is very short term. We're working right now on getting people in place. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, if I could. Mr. Schrader, I listened to Mrs. Lemon's comments. Is there a problem if we do this on the short term with the video and audio?
No, as long as you have the short outline, you talk about a written outline of the motions and the vote and that sort of thing. There do need to be written minutes, but those will suffice for now until you can get a council clerk who can, or a city clerk who can do those things for you. So yeah, it's okay to do that.
Okay. You have anything else, Mr.
I'm
Schwanko?
good, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything they'd like to weigh in on this? No, if not, then I'll go ahead and call for the roll. Mr. Sirotko?
Yes.
Mr. Bariak?
Yes?
Ms. Spletzer?
Yes.
Mr. Granchi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stempert?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Next, we have Resolution 092022, a resolution in support of the people and democratic nation of Ukraine. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Ms.
Second.
Spletzer is first. Mr. Bariak is second. And I'm going to go ahead and read the resolution in its entirety, and then if there's any other discussion before we seek to pass it. Resolution in support of the people and the democratic nation of Ukraine, sponsored by the mayor as well as all of council. Whereas the city of Newton Falls and its citizens wish to support the people and the democratic nation of Ukraine in its hour of need and oppose the invasion of their country. And whereas the city of Newton Falls decrees the death of innocents and destruction of hospitals and human misery caused by the invasion of the democratic nation of Ukraine. Whereas the city of Newton Falls and its people believe Ukrainians should enjoy a peaceful country free from foreign invaders. And whereas Newton Falls desires to make an official declaration of that support, Newton Falls City Council resolves to support the people and the democratic nation of Ukraine, light up the water tower in the colors of the Ukrainian flag and display the flag of Ukraine as visible signs of support passed in council this 16th day of March 2022. Is there any other discussion? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, Mr. Granchi?
I just once again want to also, while we're thinking of people in Ukraine, remember our own troops who are going to our neighboring NATO countries such as Estonia, Slovakia, Poland, all of that. I have many peers, seniors, subordinates that are gearing up to head over there, as well as many, many friends. So just keep them in your prayers as well.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call for the roll. Mr. Sirotko?
Yes.
Mr. Bariak?
Yes.
Ms. Spletzer?
Yes.
Mr. Granchi?
Yes.
Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
Okay, passes. Okay, next is Resolution 10-2022, a resolution a resolution honoring Santa Rick Curley. And I'm going to go ahead. Do we have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Spletzer. First. Mr. Sirotko second, and I'll read it in its entirety. Resolution honoring Santa Rick Curlin, sponsored by Mayor Kenneth Klein and co-sponsored by Councilman Boriak. Whereas the City of Newton Falls wishes to honor the giving spirit of Richard Curlin and honor his outstanding service to the community. And whereas the City of Newton Falls recognizes the actions and service to the community of Newton Falls by Richard Curlin through Santa's Workshop and the countless children over the years who have had a very Merry Christmas because of Santa's Workshop, and whereas the City of Newton Falls and the local businesses benefit from his support and promotion of the business community, and whereas the Newton Falls desires to make an official declaration of that support, Newton Falls City Council resolves to honor Santa Rick Curlin and name December 1st as Rick Curlin Day, a day to spread the joy of the season, a day of random acts of kindness, and a day to celebrate local business. Passed in council this 16th day of March 2022. Is there any discussion on this?
I'd like to weigh in on it.
Yes.
Mr. Curlin would probably be the first one up here to say, I didn't ask for this. As a matter of fact, his public recognition is in the good work he does. And if you've seen him smile around the children and help the children in his community, plus everything else he's done. And on a personal note, Mr. Curlin would help anybody if he could. I would like to, I sponsored this with the mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. The only thing I wanted to say is that I've heard it said through the years that we're blessed to have people that are the means to God's prayers being answered. And there's been so many children and families that have been helped and benefited as a result of Richard Curlin and the ongoing things that go on, not only in December, but throughout the summer and things that he has a lot to do with and that he supports and comes up with. I'm going to go ahead and call for the roll, and then I'd like to get a picture of him getting the resolution if council would like to join afterwards. So, Mr. Sirotko?
Yes.
Mr. Boriak?
Yes.
Ms. Spletzer?
Yes.
Mr. Granchi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stemper?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. And Ms. Purdy, could you take a picture with my phone? I want to get my picture taken. Council, like to join you real quick, All right, Mr. Curlin. That can be nice things in the long run.
Pam?
Hold on.
John needs to get there.
You got us all in there? Thank you.
Thank you all very much, really.
Thank you.
I want to first say thank you to the community as a whole for making a decision to actively support the children and the families of this community. This is the community, and I thank everyone for making that decision. Thank you to City Council and administration for this honor. On behalf of many other organizations and people, I'll accept that. I want to name a few people and businesses that have over the years been consistent with helping the community and helping at Christmas time. I want to thank my elves who really keep Santa going. My first elf was Peggy Sirotko and Mia Sirotko, about 20 years ago. I want to thank Carol Jemick, who is the head elf, and Florence Martin, who helped out this year and was down there at the shop 2, 3, 4 days a week, putting together stockings and everything else. I thank Patty Hans. I thank Nicole Pyle, and I thank Julie Smiles, and others that were elves. We want you all to know just a few of the people who deserve thanks. That is the Dark League, Forward Ministries, the VFW, the AMVETS, the American Legion, and all the churches. The Church Mouse. I thank Rocky, Joe Shamrock, Matthew Mazaris, who is the head man elf, big boy, but head man elf. The Newton Falls Area Commerce Association, 4444 The People charity group. I want to thank the Lions Club, the National Honor Society, my special Santa shopper Ramona, and all the businesses. I had a friend once that said to me, "It's sometime during your life, everyone needs a little help." Mm-hmm. And I believe that. Over the years, Santa's Workshop has been able to help over 4,000 children. As Santa, which I have luck in being, we have seen over 10,000 children. Some of my favorites are the Christmas in July, Breakfast with Santa, the Down syndrome, the nursing homes, and my special Christmas family, the Cato family. They are a large family, and every year, except the past 2 because of COVID, I'm able to see them, but they are constantly growing. I've been able to see people that I saw 20 years ago who now have children. And something that's important to me is the time I've spent at Camp Garfield. Looking into children's eyes, being able to help them or listen to them, to see the innocence and the expectations of the world. There's no drama. You know when they're mad and you know when they're not. I also want to thank Family Dollar, the dollar stores, 534 Cafe, and also the Chamber of Commerce Christmas tree lighting. It has taken thousands of toys and clothes over the years to help them. I thank my special boy Duncan and my family. My family has always grown up helping Santa. They've either been elves, take me places, or get me ready. That's expected at Christmas time, to help Papa. I want to say special thanks to my buddy, Mike the Marine, passed away, but never seen a man so happy to be alive and see the children. Thank you, Mike. There are so many others I should name, but they know how I feel. This presentation is very nice. But Santa Rick is the luckiest man in the world to be able to see my special children. On behalf of all of us that give, I thank you. The thing, the motto that we seem to live by, or should live by, is that kindness is a way of life. The most valuable time you can give back is your time, because we're all limited to our time. I'm starting to get a little worried because I talk to Santa a lot when I'm alone, but he's starting to answer me. I'm sorry for being emotional and rambling, but that's who Santa is. Again, I thank you on behalf of everyone, and especially the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and finally, Ordinance 2022-11, an ordinance adopting the policy concerning the availability of electric utility services to all consumers in the village of Newton Falls. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Granchi, Ms. Splitzer. Any discussion? Mr. Barek, did you want?
I sponsored it, sir.
Okay.
What I'd like to do tonight, I'd like to ask our law director, who helped me write up this legislation, wrote the legislation, if he could weigh in a little on this a little bit, about the ordinance.
Sure. First off, it does contain an emergency clause, and it's a little bit different definition of emergency. The one we heard earlier tonight is a valid definition of emergency, but that's in the context of the governor declaring an emergency as he did for COVID, or the mayor declaring an emergency if there were a local emergency in the village, or the president declaring a state of an emergency. When it comes to these ordinances, the courts are much more liberal. They'll do, as long as you indicate some facts as to why it's an emergency, then the courts will uphold that, and they're not going to try to sit as a super city council. That's not what the courts are for. The particular emergency on this one is it's important to establish that only the Village of Newton Falls may provide electric utility services to residents and consumers within the corporate limits of the Village of Newton Falls. And it's an emergency that new electric utility service connections be made to the village utilities to prevent the encroachment of First Energy, Ohio Edison Electric, into the exclusive service area of the village. That's why it's an emergency. And that also sort of explains why we have it on the agenda tonight. It has long been the policy, I think for probably 30 years of Newton Falls, that your utility for electric serves the village and not anybody else. Recently, we caught Ohio Edison attempting to encroach and provide service in the village. We thought it was important that, therefore, this ordinance be on the books to make it really clear to them that no, you can't. The ordinance largely is patterned on a suggested ordinance that I believe it's American Electric Power, the folks that generate your electricity, had provided to us that pretty much every village and city that has their own electric passes something similar to this. So that's what it's about, and that's why we need to do it. We have to have people in the village using the village's electric. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead and call for the roll. Mr. Sorotka?
Yes.
Mr. Boryak?
Yes.
Ms. Spletzer?
Yes.
Mr. Granchi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stempert?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance passes. Okay, public comments. Now open to non-agenda items, name,
Wait a minute,
address.
Kenny, we've got to pass that as an emergency. We have to do it again.
Okay. I don't believe I got a call for somebody else to make another motion. We just go ahead and call for the roll. Mr. Sorotka?
Yes.
Mr. Boryak?
Yes.
Ms. Blitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Granchi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stemper?
Yes.
Okay, passes. Okay, now public comments. Second section is open to non-agenda items, so give your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Adam Zimmerman, 515 LeMay Avenue. Myself, as well as a lot of other people here in the city, have requested that we be emailed the agenda and the legislation for all the meetings. We have not been receiving that since our last clerk has been terminated. That's a violation of the sunshine laws. If anyone needs to look it up, it's Article 8, Section B, subsection 2, covers the rules and requirements for receiving notices of meetings. I would hope that this would be rectified before the next meeting. I believe Ms. Purdy, you have access to Kathy King's emails, or our city administrator would have access to that list also. So that should be a no-brainer in order to get this corrected. Thank you.
All right, anybody else?
Julie Lemon, 609 Ridge Road. I first want to announce that the charter review is going to actually have a town hall public meeting here Tuesday, April 5th at 6 p.m. All are invited to attend. We've gotten council and administration and department head suggestions. Now we are asking for the public's suggestions, and that will be the day for the public to give us their suggestions. It will also be the day that we are sharing what we're doing, unless you come to the meetings. I mean, we're not putting on social media or anything, but the meetings are open to the public, and they're on Mondays at 6 p.m. here at the administration building. I did have another comment. Mr. Schrader, can you show me in the charter, I know it's in Article 3, Section 10, but is there another place in the charter that okayed the vote that council took? If it's not in the charter, is it in the ORC? And if so, can you please show me where?
What vote that they took?
The vote they took for audio. Because it's not in the charter that I can see. And I've read that thing forwards and backwards.
Okay, I'm at a loss. I don't understand your question.
You guys could address it afterwards.
Okay.
Okay.
It's Article 3, Section 10 says there shall be a journal of the proceedings.
No, I'll research it. I just don't understand the question.
And another thing I wanted to address was something that had happened after the last meeting somewhere, and it bugs me, and I'm going to address it. I can taboo it, whatever. But 3 people that were here during the last executive session took something that didn't belong to them and got a letter. Technically, it was petty theft, but somehow prosecution decided to become police, prosecutor, judge, and jury, and thought that was a just decision. That's not fair to anyone else that's ever charged with petty theft. You're setting a dangerous precedent when you do so. Thank you.
Mayor, may I answer that one?
Sure.
As law director, I back up what our prosecutors decide, and our prosecutors back up what the police suggest. The police suggested that that petty theft did not warrant filing charges. Instead, they took a very practical view, and that was to write a letter that said you got a deadline to return this thing, and if you don't, we will file charges. The item was returned. Part of the idea is to show something here. And since I'm on the way out the door, why don't I explain exactly how I feel about this? You had a situation before where people engaged in political prosecutions. They would charge people with crimes and then drop it later. And it was pretty much political. They went so far one evening as to have the city council clerk, who also was in charge of your drug testing program, to order that one of the city council members take a drug test the Wednesday night at around 10 o'clock in the evening before Thanksgiving. Now that's crappy. That should not happen. And we are better than that. These councilmen are better than that, and this administration is better than that. So in a situation that clearly was a petty theft, we felt the best way to show that we're not going to engage in those kinds of political prosecutions was to take the high road and show you that there's a better way of handling things. So the interest of the public, which owned the little name tag, which I don't know what it was worth, 25 bucks maybe, their interest was getting it back. That happened. The police did not feel that that should be charged, so we didn't charge it. And it's important to understand that you gotta stop doing that kind of stuff. You've got a great community here. It's one of the few that has its own electric, it has its own sewer, it has its own water. You've got an awful lot to attract people and businesses into this community. But if you keep the silly, the mayor described it as a rabbit hole, I think, and he's also described it as people that have a tendency to, and I want to get the word straight here, to play gotcha games. You got to stop that. That is causing people not to want to come here. It's causing businesses not to want to come here. My understanding is you've had one hell of a tough time trying to find people to apply for city manager or police chief or other positions. You got to stop it, and I really hope you do. I've been very proud to represent this community. I think there's an awful lot you've got going for you. And this council, I think, is committed to stopping that kind of stuff. You also had darn near a police state going here, from what I found out, in terms of some of the things that happened in the police department, and we're dedicated to not letting that happen anymore. So please, now that you got people that are trying to help you, why don't you back them up a little? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to use the public comments?
I want to address the 5 terminations and what it's going to cost the city. Now, when Deb Whitten went out of here in the late 80s, it was $200,000. Cost adjusted now, that's going to be about $300,000. With legal fees, you can put on another $50,000 or $100,000. You add that up, you're at $1.5 million or $2 million for all these terminations. You've got every employee in the city frightened. This is how you rule, with fear. The Godfather said it. You don't rule with love, you rule with fear. This is going to cut out a lot of money for the parks, for recreation, for roads, and it's been in this tenure with this group of councilmen that this has happened. This hasn't happened as long as I can remember, where 5 people have been dismissed. Working together, like Mr. Schrader said, makes a lot more sense than the fighting and the carrying on, and you're not going to get anybody in here. It's just like the Dunkin' Donuts. That's done. John, I sat right here with you that day, and you raised hell with that guy. He walked out. So this is going to cost you. This is going to cost everybody in the city when it comes to roads and rec and parks and everything else. This is going to be $1.5 million or $2 million, or maybe more. That's all I got to say.
Anybody else? All right. If not, closing remarks. Mr. Sirotko, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
Mr. Baryak?
Just one thing that was just mentioned. The Dunkin' Donuts is not dead. I'm going to reiterate that another time. We have stopped with it, and I've been in contact with Mr. Stuart White, because we need to have more remediation on that property. We put $249,000 in it already, and we've applied for another grant. Is that right, Mrs.?
250, another 250.
Another 250. We cannot do anything until the site is remediated clean. Now, Mr. Hanson wants to get up here and say what he wants to say. Well, I was here that day. And we had agreed the night before that we would not do anything because we were having new officials, elections, and everything else. We would not do anything. The next day I found out, Mr. Lynch here's his last 2 days. He was done for. He wanted to put on a going away press party or whatever it was. And all I did was go up to Mr. White and say, Mr. White, I thought we agreed not to go anywhere with anything. And he said, you're not on board with this, John? I said, I never heard about anything. I had 15 minutes meeting with you out of the whole time. And then at 6 o'clock, I heard there was a press conference. He said, you're right, John. I promise. And he is a man of his word. Now, so anybody who wants to come up here, the other thing I want to talk about for just 1 second. I too agree partly with Mr. Schrader, is that why do we want to constantly try to knock down our own community that we want to see do well, that we want to see get ahead? Why do we always have to knock it down? We have nothing better to do. If we don't like living here, leave. Leave. If you've got a chance to say what you want to say without making public accusations, and we did this, and you did this, and she's that, and she's this, it just has got to go on and on and on. I think the public, I've already been talking to a lot of people around town, and they are tired of it. And I'm not apologizing for getting upset at the beginning of the meeting, because I am tired of decent people being, you could say what you want about me, I don't care. But I'm getting tired of decent people that are trying to work us through this. The hole we were left in by former councilmen that kept everything to themselves, the Finance Committee, the Economic Development Committee, and everything was on. And now look what we got. $8,700 in the general fund, people. Well, I apologize to the mayor. The mayor runs the show. I hope that we could start to work together. I'm not going to say any more tonight. I hope I didn't offend anybody tonight.
All right, Ms. Spletzer, do you have anything?
No, Mayor.
All right, Mr. Granchi?
No, I don't.
Ms. Stempert?
No, I do not.
All right. Ms. Pretty?
No, I'm good.
All right, I got just a few things. I just want to agree with Mr. Schrader and Mr. Hanson. I couldn't have said it any better than either one of the two of you. We need to work together, and that's why I'm proud of the council that we have in here. I don't have to walk around. I don't have to be calling an attorney. I don't have to be calling the police to make sure that somebody's not stabbing me in the back and trying to boot me out of office because I don't follow the agenda. We could have sat back, like Mr. Hanson had brought up, individuals removed, individuals not here anymore. We could have sat back and allowed all the things going on. You know, individuals, I have people that would talk to me about goings on and people going in opposite directions. If everybody is going the same direction while things are going wrong, I said, that's not a good thing. I said, it's a good thing if you have somebody that's willing to butt heads with somebody that's trying to bankrupt your community. I sat here one day and BCI came in here and interviewed me for about 2 hours, as well as individuals on council. Miss Pretty, after she opened up what she could, computer was cleaned off, no records, anything. And BCI thought, well, it's awfully interesting. I'm looking at this, these funds for your electric department were moved to the general funds. These funds were moved in the wrong place. He said, but I'm looking, it's peculiar that there's something bigger going on. Something much bigger than ice sculptures that, what were they, $1,000 or something like that we spent? Something much bigger than this, then come to find out, what did Mr. Boryak say we have in our general fund, $8,000?
Sir, $8,700.
We have $8,700 in the city manager before Miss Pretty. He was putting money together to look to try to buy the railroad. You know, BCI spoke on that, the ex-finance director. What in the world do we need a railroad here for? You know, is it so Santa Claus can come in and make it quicker to get to the North Pole or what? But we could have sat back and allowed that so that we would have nothing left of our community. But you know what? There are individuals up here that said no more. Mr. Hansen said, I haven't seen this happen in a long time. Well, it's because you didn't have the guts that the people up here do to say no more, that we love our community. You know, once in a while you get backed up against the wall and you say no more. But we're at the point in time now where we're going to move forward, and that's why I kind of got upset earlier, to where we're not going to dig and ask Miss Pretty and try to play gotcha and the law director or the finance director or anybody, because we're not going to be defined anymore by what differences we have, disagreements, but we're going to be defined by the one thing that we have in common, and that's how much we love our community. And that's it. You know, anybody could sit back there and be Monday morning quarterback and go, gotcha. I'm sure there's different individuals taking things down so they can put them on their websites. Look at the mayor, he messed that one up. He got so-and-so's name wrong. Yeah, gotcha. You know, but no, I want good for my community. I have kids here. I have grandkids here. I got people I went to school with, you know, and all of you, you know. And that's what I want. I want a good community for you. And I know that each of these councilmen want a good community, and each of the individuals down here, the staff members, that's what they want. And that's all I have to report. Do we have a motion to recess into executive session for number 1, personal matters, appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, compensation, and number 3, pending or imminent court action? Do we have a motion?
Second.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'm just thinking that we should probably have 2 executive sessions.
Yes.
My business should be probably separate than the interview.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm sure that it's included in the check marks here, and we'll just have somebody send, you know, have you come in.
You want me to go in first or second?
No, we got gentlemen and stuff like that here, so we'll,
We're going to let one come in first,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
another one second. That's
Yes.
simple, isn't it, Mr. Schrader?
yeah, yep,
I have no idea.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
yeah, yes.
We're calling for the executive session on employment and appointments or thereof.
Yeah.
We have 2 different matters.
Yeah. No, that's fine. They're not individuals that pertain, you could call anybody you want into executive
You can have
session.
them come in whatever
Yeah.
order you want them. If the finance director has
Yeah.
such a employment type issue, you can bring him in first, last, middle.
We'll have
whatever you
them
want.
come in afterwards. We'll have them come in second. So does
Yeah,
somebody want to
you
make?
set the order.
Yeah, does somebody want to make a motion to go in?
I did.
Ms. Spletzer, we got a second?
Second.
Okay, first, second. Call for the roll, Mr. Sirotko,
Yes.
Mr. Boryak,
Yes.
Ms. Spletzer,
Yes.
Mr. Granchi,
Yes.
Mrs. Stempert.
Yes.
Okay, we're going into executive. Which, Mr. Housley?
Take your
Spletzer,
time.
Boriak. Roll call, Sorotka,
Yes.
Boriak,
Yes.
okay. Spletzer,
Yes.
Granchi,
Yes.
Stempert. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Granchi and Spletzer, Sorotka,
Yes.
Boriak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Granchi,
Yes.
Stempert. Meeting adjourned. Okay.